Hi everyone, Stuart here. Just a quick apology for a slight dip in audio quality in this podcast. We were displaced from our preferred recording studio and had to work in somewhere with not the best acoustics. But we hope that you managed to enjoy it anyway. Thank you very much. Hello and welcome to the Fourth and Forever podcast. Today we're continuing on with our series on draft needs for each NFL team. And today we're talking about the NFC South. So in there we have Atlanta Falcons, the Carolina Panthers, New Orleans Saints, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now this is a division which has been shaken up a lot over the seasons. There is a lot of needs, as we just discussed, for some of these teams. But even then, you still see them being teams that could all make a push. They all have something going for them. Even Tampa Bay, for large parts of last season, were somehow incredible on offense in terms of moving the ball, but just couldn't score points some of the time. Really weird. Anyway, let's get down to it, and we'll start off with the Atlanta Falcons. And they are picking with the 14th overall pick in the first round of the 2019 NFL Draft. And where do we see them going? We're looking at something like defensive tackle, edge, cornerback. Is that what we're thinking here?
Yeah, I think on offense they're so strong with Julio, Ridley, obviously Matt Ryan, who's been an MVP in the league. The offensive side of the ball, I feel that they need to get more tactically efficient rather than personnel.
Yes, they have the guys on offense who can really do something there. They might want to get another running back in there perhaps, but we've seen them do it before under the right scheme. Is this the year where they put that all together?
Yeah, not if they've kept the guy that was doing it last year. I agree with most mock drafts on this. I think that Ed Oliver, because of some issues he's had in meetings and just with his team, he's going to drop to 14 and he'll be picked up at 14 by the Atlanta Falcons because he is, as I said, he can be a generational talent.
Yeah.
When you choose to sit out the last 5 games of your college team season and annoy your coach into literally ignoring questions about you in the media, that does drop you from 5th overall to about 15th, I'd say, especially if no one's going to reach, and there's just such a strong defensive draft in the top 10. So yeah, I think if he is there at 14, you have to pick him.
I would say so. I think he is a pretty ridiculous player at his position. Absolute monster before he stopped out. We'd definitely be taken higher if it weren't for some of those problems with his previous team. So yeah, if he's there, I think you have to take him. I think that's absolutely correct. If he's not there, then maybe you'd end up still going for defensive tackle and picking up someone like Christian Wilkins from Clemson. Maybe Dexter Lawrence if you want a bigger guy through the middle there. Some people still high on Rashawn Gary, but I don't think he's the sort of player you would be able to slot into that team, or some people would say any team, in order to have him actually be a particularly successful player.
The Falcons need to make this defense strong because I was just looking up there. They've got Grady Jarrett on the franchise tag.
Yes. Deion Jones is back. He should be healthy.
Yeah. And if their defense is useless, then they might blow it up. So Grady Jarrett might end up being traded this season to a team that's in contention. Yeah. Because people don't think that's the way the NFL works. I think it's going more that way.
People are always looking for that missing piece.
Especially if the Colts have space and they're doing well in the AFC, then they might just make an unbelievably big offer for someone like Grady Jarrett just to shore things up. So
don't think the Colts need it. Just Dom Kinsu's still out there as we're recording this podcast. So
that's the thing though, if they need to prove to these players who they've got coming up for new contracts that they are still strong and can go against the Saints.
Yes.
Play your division, so they need to have a good defense that can deal with Michael Thomas. And I think Ed Oliver is the kind of player that can limit what teams like the Saints do in the running game.
Yeah, but he's also disruptive in terms of getting through to the quarterback as well. Yeah. Alternatively, if they weren't going to go that way, then you could maybe look outside to the cornerback. good chance that like Greedy Williams or Byron Murphy might still be there. DeAndre Baker as well. Those are kind of interchangeable guys on people's draft boards. Greedy Williams has always been talked up as perhaps the top guy, but I think that's primarily because his name's really cool. I could see them going for that, especially DeAndre Baker. I reckon if they could keep a Georgia guy in that building, it's obviously going to be really popular with fans. You've got to shore up that, like, your cornerback sides when you're going against those wide receivers in that division. Well, I think the only team that doesn't have one there is Carolina. New Orleans and Tampa, of course, definitely have big bodies there. We briefly touched on the running back side of things as well. I can see them going for someone perhaps with their second or third pick, so it's 45th or 79th. Again, it's just one of these things, who's available at that time. You might want to go for someone like Damian Harris of Alabama. David Montgomery keeps getting a lot of love as well. I don't know, they're one of these teams that last season they should have done better than they did. They shouldn't be in this position, they should be further up. They just made a complete mess of it.
Well, they only played like 2 or 3 formations on offense. They were very limited scheme-wise with the way the offense was put together. So I think if they fix that, add a couple of defensive talents, then they will challenge. But they are in a very difficult division to do anything.
I think in that division you really don't know what you're getting. I think I'm not particularly high on Carolina right now, but obviously New Orleans or New Orleans, Tampa Bay.
NFC South, you're going to get beat up. You're going to get injuries. You're going to get people with concussions. You're going to get lots of stuff happen during a 16-game season.
Of course.
And they're going to come out against teams that have had easier runs, like probably the Cowboys and the Eagles are going to come out of their division feeling quite good.
Yeah.
Divisional or wild card. So they just have to get out of their division and see what they can do in the playoffs.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on from Atlanta, we now head up to Carolina, where there's been some comings and goings. Cam Newton's still the guy there. They've ejected Devin Funchess from the wide receiver spot, so that wide receiver is going to be quite a popular choice for some people. They are picking with the 16th pick in the draft, and they also need help on the offensive line, as well as an edge rusher, possibly a safety is another thing we've got on the board here as well. Who would be available at this time? We've not really talked about him much yet, but Montez Sweat of Mississippi State. He's a guy, athletic freak, absolute monster of a guy, also runs faster than some wide receivers. If he's available here, do you have to take him? Or are you, unless you've got questions about his health?
I think they will go for someone like Montez Sweat if he's available at that time.
Mm-hmm.
They're a hard one to call because on paper they should be really good.
Mm-hmm.
Most years. They've got Reed, they've got Kuechly. I think they do need an edge rusher, just to try and win a bit more of the ball.
Yes, they do not have Thomas Davis anymore. He's moved on. Yeah, offensive line is something that they really also need to shore up on. So if the likes of Jonah Williams or Jawan Taylor are somehow still on the board, I could see them like swithering back and forth between one of them and Sweat. Other than that, it's probably not going to be quite as much value. Perhaps someone like Andre Dillard.
Yeah,
it's the value when you're in that mid section there. You do get you've lost some of the players who are of greater value at certain like positions of need, but then do you just have to go for the better player at a position that you don't quite need as heavily?
I wonder about Carolina. I think they've been far too conservative with Cam Newton.
Mm-hmm.
They've got definitely, I'd say, on his day, a great quarterback to have on your team. He got them to a Super Bowl, and they seem to, once they got to the Super Bowl, Kuechly got injured a few times, and they just seem to be like, oh no, we need to protect our asset in Cam Newton. And they've been boring. Cam Newton is not a pocket passer. He's good at it, and that's why he plays in the NFL, but he is an outside the box, take hits, run down the field, make plays.
He is huge.
Yeah.
He is a guy who defenders are scared to tackle because he weighs 80 pounds more than them. He can just run over some of these guys. But if he's not the threat throwing the ball, which he wasn't for large stretches of last season because of the injury to his arm, that's not really going to work out very well for you, especially if you don't have a target at wide receiver. So with their second pick in the draft at number 47, you're maybe in AJ Brown and N'Keal Harry territory. I reckon Harry is one of these guys who would be a good asset to him there. Kind of a prototypical size sort of guy. 6'2", 228. Not as fast as DK Metcalf, but he can actually turn and catch the ball if you throw it to him.
It's not going to hit him on the back of the head.
Yeah, so that might be an option for them somewhere down the road as well. Any final thoughts on Carolina? Like they're one of those ones that I seem to hear myself making a lot of noises about, or
Yeah, so they've got Brian Khalil at centre. I think he was considering retiring. If I was them, I'd be looking to get a very athletic player on offensive line, or in that line, that can move bodies and create lanes.
Actually, no, the Carolina Panthers have signed Matt Paradis from the Denver Broncos.
Yes.
Who
Is he athletic?
He is a good centre, yes. Denver tend to use athletic centres, or offensive linemen anyway. Matt Paradis has sorted them out in centre there. Left tackle right now is Taylor Motton, apparently. Not someone I've really heard of. They did bring back Darrell Williams, who at his best can be one of the best tackles in the league. So if that signing works out well for them, that's going to be a really good one. But they do still need to shore up on that other side. I think Williams is listed as a right tackle, so left tackle is clearly where you need to work on there. But perhaps Taylor Motton, I don't know enough about him to be honest. He could be all right there, but nothing why I can see.
Just like the other position, like they're looking at like safeties and that, there just isn't enough talent to really be looking at this position.
No, not yet. Safety, I don't see there being. Well, there's maybe going to be one in the first round, perhaps. Don't see too much else. Just depends on what teams are assessing in terms of needs. So yeah, moving on from the Carolina Panthers, we're going to go down south to New Orleans, and we have just recently heard the news that they have signed Jared Cook. So that is going to sort out their need for a tight end. Jared Cook has had a couple of really successful seasons over the last few years. In Oakland and in Green Bay. A bit of a journeyman, but wherever he's gone, he's produced. In Oakland last year, he ended up being Derek Carr's favourite target, so we don't think that they're going to be needing to get a tight end there. This year, the Saints are picking at
62.
Yeah, the New Orleans Saints do not have a first round pick, so it's another one of those Dallas Cowboys situations where now we just have to kind of waffle on about them for a while. But they are still an interesting team. Obviously, Drew Brees back again. Do they wait until the second round and then is that their successor, or are they definitely all in on Teddy Bridgewater being the guy they're going to give a go here?
I think they're in on Bridgewater. I would say that in terms of position to be in, I'd rather be the Saints picking at 62 than some of these other teams that are picking 3 times in the first round.
Yeah. Not only do the Saints only have that pick, number 62, in the top 2, they don't have another pick until the 5th round after that.
Yeah.
So we have very little to talk about here. So let's just focus on what they do need and just throw out a couple of hypotheticals. I would say they would like to have a cornerback to pair with their other young defensive backs. At that sort of time, you have maybe that Rocky Sin, Julian Love sort of territory. Maybe you go for Trayvon Mullen out of Clemson. He's a guy a lot of people are still quite high on. Maybe kind of slip down some people's draft boards, kind of falling off when the likes of Greedy Williams, Byron Murphy and DeAndre Baker are still stomping around. Also linebacker, they could really do with improving through there. But again, by that point, linebacker is really, really thin this year. You got anything?
There's not much. I do look and think, well, there's a few players that they can probably pick up really cheap. Like they could maybe bring back Des Bryant if they needed another weapon. They've already paid him, so they may as well.
Yeah, may as well get him back in the building again, I suppose.
If they have this many picks on purpose, they have a very good team. So they'll pick probably the best player available in each pick they have, and then they could maybe trade that second round pick for a couple of fourths, so that they have maybe a couple more players to go for. But I think they're one of the teams, like the Rams, that are probably looking at the AAF, looking at players on practice squads and going, we have our starting lineups, so we have the chance to go and get a good cornerback that's been a ball hawk in the AAF, or that, and actually.
Whoa, but like that's a bit of a reach, though, isn't it? I mean, there's one or two guys there who are clearly head and shoulders above everyone else. I'm not sold on the quality of the AAF really for all of it, but like it's an opportunity for people to showcase their talents. What's the cornerback's name you're probably thinking of? Will.
He's the LSU guy that's playing for the Commanders.
Yeah, I think so.
That everyone seen on Twitter, all the ex-players and current players seem to
I see you.
Yeah, so
Yeah, so we're clearly not paying enough attention to the AAF, because who I was talking about was Will Hill of the Orlando Apollos. Good job, Big Will.
there's a couple of guys. That's what I mean. There's a couple of guys that they can bring in training camp and just see how it goes.
It's a free agency thing. So basically, New Orleans Saints, they're building through free agency this year rather than the draft because they don't have one, essentially. Yeah. Because of that, like they've got a couple of extra picks in the 6th and 7th rounds. They're probably just going to take a couple of swings on guys who have potential, who are going to fall down that far. Yeah, just pick for whatever is the highest ranked player in your draft board at that point. Doesn't matter what position they are, just go for it. I guess is probably the way they're probably going to think, because they don't have much else in the way of capital. Yeah, I really wish I had more to say on the Saints, because they are a fascinating team. They are going to be one of the favourites for next season.
This is not the podcast for them, though.
No, definitely not. We're really stretching this one out. Long pauses. I'm going to leave all the long pauses in on this one. Just like that. Drew Brees, it's getting old. Teddy Bridgewater could be the future for them. Otherwise, if it gets down to it and they get someone fall in like them in the 5th, they could go for someone like, I don't know, maybe Tyree Jackson out of Buffalo. Seemed to be interesting to some people. Maybe even a little bit later on, you might get your boy Jarrett Stidham out of Auburn.
Maybe. I just don't think you'd take a quarter. With one of these 4 picks, I just think you're picking the best players you can to build up a really competitive training camp. Because they just need to keep the competition. They've had a couple bad luck in a couple of seasons, and they just need to keep the right mindset and just go out and win games.
Don't let Teddy Bridgewater rest on his laurels, though. He needs to know that he's got to not only be ready, but be really ready. and if you give him someone else to compete against, maybe even let him start being a leader. So start letting him being one of the ones to guide another quarterback there. Anyway, we managed to stretch that out to over 5 minutes. Good job. After New Orleans Saints, we have Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Oh boy, I don't think we're going to have enough time to talk about all the needs for the Tampa Bay Bucs. Of course, they are picking 5th overall, and a lot of people have them going for Josh Allen out of Kentucky, the edge rusher. Some people who are higher on him than others are saying Josh Jacobs, running back out of Alabama, who is the consensus best running back in this draft. Seems to be a good do-it-all sort of player. But do you really go for a running back that high in the modern NFL draft?
Obviously you do.
Well, Saquon Barkley was potential generational talent, though.
They need a running back. They really, really do need a running back. They
not hiring Peyton Barber?
No, and I feel bad because I pay a lot of attention to Gary Vaynerchuk's podcast, and he's just signed Barber for Vayner Sports, and seeing a lot of stuff on Twitter, loads of showcases about him maybe getting a new deal and all of this work. But no, they do need another talent at that position. it's not working by committee because the quarterback play hasn't been strong enough. I agree with some of the kind of fan forums on Tampa Bay. They're looking at Jonah Williams to protect Winston. If you're to give him another year and give him another go, then give him as much protection as possible because he's got weapons on the outside. But they could go anywhere with this pick.
Yeah.
They're probably in, other than the Jets, they're probably in the strongest, but like the Jets are in a strong position because anything they do is just going to add value to that roster they're building. Tampa Bay just need talent, so anything they do at 5 is going to be beneficial. You're looking, there's White available at 5 as well. There's Williams.
You say they're in the best position, like one of the best positions, because they are so bad everywhere.
This is a general manager's. All he has to do is be on the right side of history and get one of these players that's going to be good for 5 to 6 years. And I'd say Alabama players are strong there. So, Williams, he's coming from Alabama. There's also Juwan Taylor from Florida. There's so many ways they can go.
Devin White, linebacker. He's one of the top 2 linebackers there, definitely.
From what I've heard, and I know it's hard because like ESPN and some of the other agencies that speak about this are so LSU heavy in terms of their analysts, but Devin White does seem to be on a lot of people's boards just a slam dunk.
Yeah.
In terms of talent and immediate impact.
Yeah, he seems like one of these guys who can really do it all in terms of his ability to rush the passer, even playing coverage. He's pretty quick.
But he's someone, selfishly, I'd want to be on like the Jets or just a team that's actually competing. Put him on the Buccaneers and they might get lost in obscurity for a little while because they're just not ready to challenge.
Sometimes that's just how it works, though. It wouldn't be fair, but that's what happens. You get some of the greatest players in NFL history have just sat on terrible, terrible rosters. Barry Sanders, one of the greatest running backs in the NFL, ran behind nothing. Like there was no offensive line for him for his entire career. He still ended up producing. People know he was great, but he never got the chance at the big game. Real shame. Tampa Bay, they've got some talent there. I don't think they should have let Adam Humphries walk out of that building. They should have paid him. He's managed to head off from free agency on a nice big deal. Very good for him. But yeah, they could certainly do with some work at wide receiver as well. Their second round pick is at number 39. So there's still a good chance that there'll be a couple of those relatively high talent wide receivers available. Possibly AJ Brown and Keel Harry. That's the sort of guys that keep coming up in the conversation for a good, solid second round investment, I would think.
They do seem like one of the teams that will take a leap on, your Paris Campbells or your Andy Isabellas to try and make a little bit more space to throw to. But it's also the kind of idea that if you're going to do that, then why not just keep Humphries? So they need to protect Winston. They're probably another team that just needs to get their game plan together offensively, so they're not just lobbing long balls. The issue they have is that they'd do well at the start of a game, they'd fall 2 touchdowns behind,
and they have to throw it.
Fitzmagic and Winston to throw the ball every play, and it's just not going to work. They need to be a lot more structured in their game plan.
That was one of the more unique seasons I've seen from an NFL offense, in that certainly at the beginning of the year, just throwing it up. It was going everywhere and all these yards, and it was all piling up. But then was there not a game where they had something like 560 yards passing or something like that, but they scored about 7 points? I didn't even know that was possible. It just seems like one of these things that should not be possible. But so yeah, like they clearly have the ability to do it. So yeah, just get some more personnel in. You clean some slates. What's going to happen? Who knows? I don't know.
I think that 5th pick that they've got is really strong.
Yes, that's a good position to be
for
in.
me. That I'd pick White there. I think that you're getting a slam dunk in terms of talent, and if you can crowd the box and make a few plays at linebacker and get to the quarterback, then it opens up so much more for the offense, which
Yeah.
is already pretty strong in terms of yards per game.
In terms of potential yards, I don't really know where it's going to go.
They,
Like
they
Devin
just
White,
can't be chasing as much as they are.
Yeah, Devin White obviously would slot in nicely for Quan Alexander, who was a really high energy but reckless player who's gone over to San Francisco. That would make sense if they were to do that. Anyway, that'll do it for the NFC South. Please listen to more of our divisional roundups for this. Got plenty of content coming for you over the next couple of weeks. So yeah, please continue to listen, give us any feedback, and we love you. Goodbye.
Yeah!
Bye.